I'm your host, Alec Crawford, founder and CEO of Artificial Intelligence Risk Inc., and this is AI Risk Reward, a podcast about balancing the risk and reward of using AI personally, professionally, and as a large organization. We will discuss hot topics such as, will AI take my job or make it better? When I ask ChatGPT work questions, is that even safe? From an ethical perspective, is it enough for big companies to anonymize private data before using it? Probably not. I'm discussing these issues with AI experts to answer burning questions and stay ahead of the curve on AI. I'd also like to give a shout out to our podcast producer and audio engineering team at Troutman Street Audio. You can check them out on LinkedIn. Welcome everyone to the AI Risk Reward podcast. And our special guest today is Andriy Burkov. Andriy holds a PhD in artificial intelligence and is the author of several books, including the 100-page language models book, machine learning book, and machine learning engineering. Welcome, Andriy.
Hey, Alec, and thanks for having me.
Yeah, great to see you. And look, our theme today is going to be how AI is changing software development forever. But I think, first we want to go back in time a little bit and talk about your background and early career. So tell us about your PhD. Where'd you get it? What was your thesis on? Fun stuff like that.
Yeah, so my PhD was in artificial intelligence, more specifically in multi-agent systems and computational game theory. So for people who are not familiar with the topic, it's about creating algorithms that help independent intelligent entities to either collaborate on solving some tasks or to compete. For example, if they represent different economic entities. And one of the major results of my thesis was an algorithm that calculates a Nash Equilibrium in multi-turn games. So, for example, when, let's say, two entities, like two robots, need to work on the same problem or need to compete on about the same rewards in a game repeatedly. So the algorithm finds a solution that would be, it would be preferred by both robots, and none would like to deviate from this strategy, because by deviating they reduce their reward automatically. So this was my official topic of my thesis, but I also was very interested in machine learning. So once I finished my PhD, I decided to work in a company that analyzes data through natural language processing. So I have an extensive experience in NLP too.
Great. Well, that sounds cool. Did you have any particular mentors during that period of time in AI land?
What do you mean?
A mentor, like someone who you looked up to or helped you, or?
Yeah, mentors. I'm autodidact, I would say. So I like to read papers that transformational. For example, one of the papers that excited me the most before the transformer era was the paper with the title about an unreasonable effectiveness of big data, where authors, for example, Peter Norvig from Google, they have shown that even the simplest algorithms, when you throw a lot of data on them, start making much better predictions despite their simplicity. So the book Artificial Intelligence, A Modern Approach, again by Norvig and Russell, were for me like my go-to book when I wanted to expand my range of knowledge, because AI today, it's all reduced to LLMs, but if you actually interested in the real domain, scientific domain, there is plenty. And for example, my domain, multi-agent systems, currently is becoming more and more popular because, well, everyone talks agent and so on. So I think Peter Norvig and his book for me was like my go-to place to expand my knowledge.
Cool. That sounds really cool. And then after doing your thesis and graduating, you went to work in industry. Tell us about that.
Yeah, well, well, the reason why I decided not to continue in academia was that it was, even back then, it was super competitive, and I just didn't feel, happy competing against other very smart folks. And the best conferences, they have a very low acceptance rate. So you wait and you wait and you wait for the decision, and then you are either super high and you are happy, or they say your work isn't interesting enough, and then you are depressed. So this up and down, I didn't really like as an experience. So I decided to go to the industry and try to apply my problem solving skills to solve something interesting to solve. And the first company that I joined, it was Fujitsu, a Japanese company. I joined it as a scientific consultant. But after 2 years, I have found a really interesting startup here in Quebec City that at the time had a revolutionary product that analyzed all the job postings that appeared online. Today, it's like nothing extraordinary, but 20 years ago, no one but this company did this, probably Indeed and this company. And so it was like an Indeed. And I applied lots of different interesting algorithms to extract skills that are mentioned in the job postings, the salary numbers, classification by type of work, by industry, and so on and so on. So today, again, it's probably all probably could be solved by a call to an LLM. But 15, 20 years ago, for every small piece you want to extract, it was a different algorithm, a different way to prepare data. So it was very, very challenging and interesting.
That's pretty cool. And look, obviously, as part of your journey, you've written a whole bunch of books. What got you started on that? You woke up one day and said, "I'm going to write some books," or what happened?
No, I really didn't think that I will ever be patient enough to start and finish a book. They say there are people who are sprinters who like to run short distances, and I think they call them skiers who run long distances. So I consider it myself as a sprinter. But when I started to post on LinkedIn, and at the time there were not a lot of influencers on LinkedIn, so a lot of folks started to follow me. At some point, I looked at my bookshelves with a lot of books on AI and machine learning, and I kind of realized that none of these books I started and ended. So it was always like, okay, I will just read this part, or okay, I will quickly find something on this topic. So I was like, okay, all books at the time were academical. So they were written by scholars for students. So they were very dense mathematically, and they considered a lot of aspects of machine learning that weren't necessarily very relevant to practitioners, those who want to actually implement algorithms, apply algorithms to existing business problems. So I just posted on my LinkedIn that if I was to write a book on machine learning today, it would be 100-page books, not 1,000-page books. And the post has become viral, and people in comments split into two parts. The first said, it's impossible to write such a short book without losing, the important detail, because, well, if those books are this thick, it's because there is no other way to write it more, how to say, in a more compact way without losing important details. And another part, the second part of commenters were like, please write it, because I tried multiple books. All of them are too dense. I don't have access to any, research advisor or a scientist who would explain me this equation, that formula, and so on. So I was kind of challenged by the both sides. The first said, you cannot do it, so I will do it. And the second said, we want it, so okay, I will do it. And I started to write, and I wrote the first 4 or 5 chapters. And I realized that probably half of the matter is still left, so it's still remaining to be written. And I'm in the middle, and I'm around 50, 60 pages. So I was like, okay, probably I'm safe. I put my first 4 chapters online, and then I finished chapter by chapter, and my final result was 140 pages. So it's like 100-ish pages, but still not 1,000.
Yeah, that's super cool. Now, turning to the theme of the show, I know plenty of people who couldn't write a line of code 2 years ago who are now, writing software, and some people call it vibe coding. No, I'm not as focused on that. I'm more focused on how are the true software professionals, the software engineers, how is AI changing software development today?
I would say a lot. I don't consider myself a software engineer. Never considered myself like a strong software developer. But I have, I would say, 22, 23 years of coding almost daily in different contexts. I worked as a software engineer 20 years ago, and then I moved to Canada, and I started my master's and PhD. So you always code some algorithms, and then I worked for the company where I did NLP. So again, you apply those AI algorithms you need to code. So I can tell that coding today, if you are familiar at least with the principle of building software, is entirely different. So any engineer today who is good in coding, they become 10 times, like, several years ago, or maybe 10 years ago, there was a 10 times engineer post circulated everywhere. Like, I would hire a 10 times engineer, one instead of 100, a team of 100 people, because they are so cool. So today, every regular software engineer who knows the principle of software engineering, they become these 10 times engineers, because at the current state of language model skills, they are not good at architecting your solution. You can, of course, ask about, describe me an architecture. And it might be like, it might look good, but it might also be an overkill or an underkill or something else. So if you understand what is a good design, an LLM cannot fool you into accepting something wrong. So you will start from a good design from the very beginning. And then once you have a good modular design where every module is isolated from every other module, then you just work on every specific module one by one. And here LLMs are very good. So it can develop develop an isolated model responsible for, let's say, normalizing your data, or responsible for the UI that shows the result of what your application does. So like module by module, LLMs are very good. So when you, as a user of this AI, you can see what is good and what is not good. You can say, no, I don't accept this solution because I don't like these decisions that you made. And if the LLM might say, oh, really? Yeah, I agree with you. Here is the different solution. So you can loop this way with an LLM until it gives you a good one. But imagine instead of, just saying, no, I don't like it because, no, I don't like it because, you need to write all of this code by hand. So the time it would take for one person to develop an application that consists of database, backend processing, front end, uh, security, like access to, the authentication, accepting credit cards. All of this previously required an expert, like probably not full time, but an expert in all these domains. Now, if you are experienced enough as a software engineer, you know that here you need this kind of expertise. Okay, so you ask an LLM about this kind of expertise. It provides you some solution. You look how well it integrates with the rest of your application. You either reject or you say, okay, makes sense. You also can validate. So one LLM can generate some solution, and you can kind of cross-check this solution by another LLM. Just kind of criticize this. Let me know if you see anything wrong. It might be the case that the other LLM will say this is wrong, why it's not big deal. But because you're a good software engineer, you see where it's a big deal and where it's not a big deal. So like the time saving and the productivity increase for the person capable of making software is incredible. You mentioned that people who didn't code before now try. Here I'm more skeptical because eventually your code base grows and grows and grows, and you don't understand anything what's inside. So at some point it stops working. And it's so huge that no LLMs can reliably take this huge, messy, bug of code and find, just the right fix. It's impossible. So you need to give an LLM some good code so that on the output you also have some goodish code. But if you give some mess, it will be very hard to make it kind of clean it up.
And what tools are people using today that they find effective in terms of writing code?
Well, I'm different from many of people who I talk to online. So currently there is plenty of different coding environments. Like for example, VS Code from Microsoft. It's very popular because it's open source. And VS Code comes with a module or a plugin, call it Copilot, and you can kind of integrate this chat capability into your coding environment. So you have all your code there, and you just say, okay, change this class to accept this additional parameter, and change all the dependencies so that they provide this parameter, and so on. So people use this. And there is plenty, like hundreds today probably of choices, because anyone can fork VS Code and create their own, unique AI-assisted coding environment. I don't like it because I like really to control everything that's going on. So I work with a regular text editor. I use Sublime Text. And I have a script that takes my entire code base, like it walks through the tree of directories in my project, and it creates a concatenation of all files in my project, and puts the path of each file just above the file content. So I get a huge concatenated file. And today, what I do usually is that I take this concatenated file, I paste it directly into Gemini. Gemini today supports up to 1 million tokens, and it's free, and it's really good. So you paste your entire code base, and then in the end you say, I want to update this application as follows. In the following part of the user's dashboard, I want to show this graph, and the data should come from this table from the database. Implement it, and it implements it 9 times out of 10. You just run it and it just works. If there is something difficult, for example, you have a bug, and especially like some nasty bug that really hard to verbally even explain what's going on, then Gemini is not very good for debugging. So Gemini, in my experience, is very good for providing like a solution from scratch, like show a new widget somewhere. But if something doesn't work, so my next step is that Gemini gives up. You ask Gemini to print the paths that are potentially relevant to the issue. You take this path, you only concatenate code files from this list of paths. And then because it's shorter than the whole code base, you paste it into Claude, for example, which accepts up to 240, I think, 1,000 tokens as input. And Claude is much, much better in debugging. So Claude can even interactively debug with you. So the Claude would say, okay, I see what you mean. Could you show me this file? I don't see it. Okay, so you show it this additional file. Then it says, okay, I would like to debug. So can you add this debugging line in this part of this function? So you add this debugging line, you run the application, you take the debugging printed from the console, you paste it to Claude, and Claude say, okay, now I see. So this line printed this, but this line printed that, which means that this part of the code wasn't executed. So we need to fix so that this part of the code is executed rather than that part of the code. So it's very similar to debugging with a human, or debugging as like by yourself. It's very similar to how people debug when they don't know about a regular debugging tools in code development environment, where you can stop the execution on a certain line and see all the variables available at this point, and then run just one line, or jump through the entire function. So people who don't know how to debug this, usually how they debug through prints. So, okay, you print I'm here, and then you print I'm here. Oh my God, why this I'm here was printed, but that one wasn't? So this is exactly how debugging with LLMs works, but because you don't need to think, you just execute and they give you ideas, it's not as exhausting as it was when you do it by hand.
And now a word from our sponsor. Artificial Intelligence Risk Inc. accelerates adoption of GenAI safely. They provide the governance, risk, compliance, and cybersecurity platform that financial, healthcare, and other regulated organizations need before they can use GenAI safely and in compliance with regulatory requirements. Their software has won #1 awards for cybersecurity and compliance from Waters Technology. Find them at aicrisk.com. Yeah, pretty amazing. So what do you think is going to happen in the profession of software development over the next few years? Because I'm hearing anecdotally that some students are graduating from school with computer science degrees and are just unable to find jobs right now.
This is a problem, and I posted about it. This is unfortunate, actually, because these LLMs are currently at the level of junior software developers. So basically, they are as unreliable as juniors, and juniors usually need a senior who works with them closely, who validates the code that they produce it, and points at different mistakes or bad design decisions and so on. So this is very much like very much like you work with LLMs today. So you need a babysitter, like a senior, and I think many companies would prefer to use an LLM as a provider of unreliable code rather than a human for many reasons, economical reasons. You don't need to pay sick leaves for an LLM, and another reason is that it's faster, and people usually come with all sorts of problems. So when you add a new person to a team, you never know whether the person will fit well with the team, or the person will become toxic and the team will suffer. So from this perspective, not hiring a new person and using an LLM seems like a reasonable choice for many businesses. Why it's unfortunate, of course, for junior folks who just finished their university programs. What can they do? Well, I think they probably need to become more senior by themselves. So while you are still in university, I would recommend to build your own projects, put them online, and today again, they can use LLMs to actually accomplish something really impressive quite fast. And while you're in the university, you have access to very brilliant folks who can, help you if you're blocked to unblock and so on. So try to build something good, something working and solving some interesting problem before you finish your studies, and then apply and say, I'm not, just out of university. I have several projects that show what I'm capable of doing. So this is a solution probably for junior, for people without experience. For companies, it's also tricky because if you don't hire juniors, you kind of freeze your team in time. So usually team, it's ever-changing entity. So people come, grow. Some go. Some become seniors after several years of being mentored. They become seniors, and now you can trust them important projects. But if you just keep the senior people and don't hire anyone, eventually these senior people will go. Well, probably one or two will never go, but some important people will go. And who will you replace them with? Hiring another senior will be very expensive. Like usually, if you want to have a reasonably paid senior, you start with a junior. And because if you look, like I need someone with 10 years experience, okay, prepare to pay the real market price for it. So I don't know. Both sides seem to me will have problem in the long run. But today, people try to save money, and this is how it is.
Yeah, I totally believe that. Look, that's important ethical questions, very good advice. But if we think about AI over the next decade, what are you most worried about?
I'm not worried about anything because not because I don't care. It's because people often worry about something hypothetical. Like if AI becomes X, then we will all lose jobs. Or like in my favorite movie you asked about, Terminator 2, if AI decides that the humanity is actually a threat to the rest of the world, then it will decide to wipe humanity out. So if something like this happens, then the result will be this. But these ifs, they are so hypothetical that they will probably never happen because until now, even with today's LLMs, we are not even close to the kind of AI they show in the movies, like Terminator 2 or the last Mission Impossible. So like this AI, it's not just it doesn't exist. It's that we don't even know in which direction we need to work to get this kind of AI, because like scaling those language models isn't this direction, and we already see that we are at the limit. The hallucinations problem isn't solved, and everyone accepts that is by design. So if you want to create an LLM that doesn't hallucinate, it will just say, please don't bother me, I have nothing to say. In this case, it will not hallucinate. But if you want it to be useful, you need it to keep this hallucination part, in the way you build this model. So like to be afraid or that LLM will eventually become so big that it will become too smart, I don't think so, because LLM, it's a neural network, and the neural network is a reflection of the data it was trained on. So if your data is controlled by you, and you train it through the data to be collaborative and and helpful, and not ask questions and not don't think too much, it will not do it. So maybe some person will take an LLM and fine tune it to be a troll on the internet. Well, this is possible, but again, what bad the troll can do? Of course, if military folks will put an LLM as an agent that decides whether to push the button, the nuclear button or not, it will be a disaster. But it will not be because of the AI. It will be because people made really bad decisions.
Yeah, that's one of my my lines I've been using for years now, which is never give AI the nuclear codes. Very, 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 very important, Andriy. All right, so look, yeah, you had some great advice earlier for computer science students. You know, do a big project, do it at school, become a senior engineer. Really, before you get out, you've got access to great mentors at that point. Like thinking bigger picture, you know, there are companies adopting AI right now. You know, some are very far ahead, like some of the big banks and things like that, and others really haven't even started. So if you're thinking about a company in a regulated industry like healthcare that hasn't even started adopting AI, what kind of advice would you give them?
I think the advice would be, if you want to start using AI, you need to hire people who understand how it works. Because it's very tempting today to say, even my secretary can talk to ChatGPT and solve all these problems you talk about. But in the end, the person who doesn't understand how language models work, how they are built, how they are trained, they will expect probably something or assume something that cannot be true about AI. So it's very frequent, fallacy when you see online people test every new model. They maybe you have seen this video circulating online where they have a sort of a octagon or a hexagon, and inside there's plenty of balls, and it's turning, and they compare how good an LLM is by showing how close this physics of these balls inside this hexagon to what they expect the physics of this should be. And they say, oh, look at this model really is like the physics looks really poor, and this one look like it jumping like it's real. The reason for the difference is not that one model is dumber than the other. The reason is that the producers of the model, which seems better, they actually used training data that implements this kind of algorithms. So some people say, oh, look, I just asked it to create me a game of Tetris, and it printed the full length, code of Tetris. You just click run and you play Tetris. And they say, wow, cool. But the reason is not that now it can create you any game. It's just that you asked it about something that people who created it put in its training data. So of course there is plenty of implementation of Tetris online, so many of them ended up in the training data or fine-tuning data, because you want to impress people. You fine-tune it on some problem, and then you do a presentation and you say, hey, look how it solves this problem. Yes, because you specifically fine-tune it for it. So people who don't understand these basics of machine learning, they might think that if I asked this and it resulted in my solution, then logically, if I ask for that, it's not more difficult than this, so it also will find the solution. So, and this is a fallacy, because it's not true. So it might be very smart in this really tiny domain, and maybe even in 20 tiny domains. Like if you take all the benchmarks that exist, like benchmark for instruction following, benchmark for coding, benchmark for multilingual, and so on. So you take 20 benchmarks, and in all of them, the model is good. It doesn't mean that you will add a 21st benchmark and the model will still be good. So relying on your assumption about AI is very dangerous if your goal is to automate something. So my advice is hire at least one person who understands how machine learning works, why neural networks can do what they can do. And then, yeah, try to automate your processes by converting them into something that LLM can take as an input and output some decision that will push your user workflow further. So where you previously asked the person to download something, read it, and then upload something, try to extract something from the download, show it to the LLM with some instructions, and let LLM produce the output that will further be used downstream. But again, validation is critical. So a person, if they make a mistake, you can correct them by saying, hey, John, last time you forgot to fill this field and our application was rejected. Please don't forget it next time. This is not how LLM will do. They will systematically forget it. And no matter how hard you try to put it in the prompt by saying, please don't forget to put to fill this field, and also please don't forget to fill that field. Eventually, you will add so many different please don't forget that it will take the first half and the other half will be ignored, and you cannot really control anything of it.
That's really good information. So we're going to shift gears to our lightning round there now. So I'm going to mention things and ask if you think they're underrated or overrated and why. So of course you're in Quebec, so I'm going to have to ask, poutine, underrated or overrated?
I think underrated. There is really good poutine. Yeah, I never tried poutine before I moved to Quebec, and I was skeptical in the beginning, but sometimes you just want a poutine. So yeah.
I'm with you on that. Winter spas, underrated or overrated?
Oh, underrated, definitely. And some folks don't, they come to a winter spa and they only, spend time in the bubble bath, in a jacuzzi. But there is hammam, there is Finnish sauna. People don't use it, and this is really, really underrated a lot. Sometimes I'm alone, and it's cool for me to be alone there, but people miss a lot, I think.
The future potential of large language models, underrated or overrated?
I think that's underrated by some, overrated by some. Generally, I think people will use them more than they are using them today.
Yeah. Island vacations in Canada, underrated or overrated?
Overrated, I think.
Yeah. The idea of books as large language models, like the monster book from Harry Potter, underrated or overrated?
I think it's the future of reading when you actually can talk to the book. Yeah,
That's pretty cool. Winter Carnival in Quebec City, underrated or overrated?
I think it's very overrated because of how cold it is. So when people think about the carnival, they think like Brazil carnival. No, it's freezing cold.
Right. French bakery culture in Quebec, underrated or overrated?
Overrated if you compare with real bakery from France.
Hey. Getting a PhD in artificial intelligence, underrated or overrated?
I think it's underrated, especially today.
Yeah, everybody can't do AI just because you could use ChatGPT. How about speaking multiple languages, underrated or overrated?
I think it's underrated. I think the number of languages that you speak, it's kind of a number of yourselves that you have. So you are a different person when you speak a different language. So kind of have multiple personalities.
Yeah, so and finally, which we hinted at earlier, underrated or overrated the movie Terminator 2?
Oh, it's definitely underrated. If I sometimes meet people who never watched it, and I'm like, I'm jealous because I would like to erase my memory to be able to rewatch, Terminator 2 or Alien or The Lord of the Rings, Harry Potter. I'm jealous that people can still sit and watch it for the first time.
Yeah, that's super cool. Yeah, I don't think I could ever watch some of the series again. It would just take too long, and you already know the end, right? But I would watch
Yeah.
Terminator 2 again, for sure. Game of Thrones, I am never watching every episode of Game of Thrones again. That's just not happening.
I
It
haven't
would take
watched
too
it
long.
because I waited for the ending, and people all, are not happy about the ending, so I decided
Uh,
not even start.
yeah. Well, I think it's worth watching, I think, but not worth watching twice. Anyway,
My
so
best series that really I would watch again, and I was really impressed when it ended. It was Breaking Bad, because like
yeah, great
every
show.
new season is better than the previous one. I don't know how they managed to do it. Usually it's downhill, but there it's better and better.
Yeah, well, they just made the main character crazier and crazier. That's one way to do it. But anyway, so Andrei, thanks for coming on the show. Our guest is Andriy Burkov. He's got a PhD in artificial intelligence, and he's the author of the 100-page language models book and machine learning book. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thanks, Alec, and I enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
You are listening to the AI Risk Reward podcast with your host, Alec Crawford. You can find us anywhere you listen to podcasts, for example, Apple Podcasts. Production and sound engineering by Troutman Street Audio. You can find them on LinkedIn. Please like, subscribe, and comment.